Hi, I'm Doug McKenzie, and welcome to another episode of the Regtech Show. In this episode, we travel to Zurich to find out from Avaloq just what kind of impact PSD2 will have on the financial industry. We also get insights from HSBC and Raiffeisen Bank about their plans for the post-PSD2 future. With the new regulation PSD2 now, what does that mean for the financial institutions?
I think transparent competition, first of all, because the providers have to really share payment information, which means that every organisation that has to do that is on a level playing field, which means that you have to start looking at new revenue models and new opportunities. So organisations will need to start thinking about the B2B strategy, the direct-to-customer strategy, and how to generate revenue leveraging the PSD2, open APIs, data sets, and how to collaborate with partners in the ecosystem and fintechs. I think for Avaloq, we're very well positioned. Our strategy has been, data is at the core of our platform and solutions. It's at the core of our architecture, actually. We have just in the process of launching 150 API feature endpoints. We have already our ecosystem of over, I think, 100 fintechs. So we're in a position to support those organisations that are seeing challenges with PSD2, how they want to drive the operating model, and where they want to go in the future.
Well, open banking broadly in the UK and PSD2 in Europe, I think the idea is very simple. It's designed to create a much more seamless data exchange across financial institutions, new players. And it's also designed to, let's call it, democratize access to payment systems. And I think ultimately, in its fullest incarnation, that would mean the creation of banking ecosystem where you have multiple players who are trying to serve customers' needs. And customers, if done well, if all this pans out well, and by that I mean the data governance around all of this is very explicit and clear, then customers are better off because they have choices, they have the ability to see all their money in one place, and there is an architectural implication for banking here, which HSBC, for instance, had embraced even before the regulation came as a catalyst, and that is to open up the banking architecture through APIs, for example. So the ability for HSBC to partner with new players using APIs to create new experiences for our customers. And that's what we have been trying to do with open banking. And there are particular use cases which we are exploring. For instance, now, how do you ensure that you have better lending outcomes for customers when you are able to see their complete financial picture if they are, for example, not primary banked with HSBC. So we've been running a small pilot to test that idea. And I've talked about connected money as an example of an experience which brings all of customers' accounts in one place.
We are completely aware that there is a lot of countries, especially in North America, but also in Asia, that are not touched by any PSD2-like regulation, but they're still going into the platform or in the open banking business. So we looked very closely in their rationale in understanding on what, besides of the PSD2, is actually driving this platformification business. PSD2, as I mentioned, we see as currently as a starting point. I think from a personal point of view, this, alongside with some other examples, is one of the major drivers of innovation now in the European banking industry, as it now forces banks to open up or think about opening up their systems to an outside world. It also creates kind of an urgency for us, as it will, if not or if done correctly, depending on your point of view, redefines the custom interface that we have to the banks. Those who offer a good and convenient, easy to use custom interface, those who aggregate data best, those who can actually interpret and redeliver these interpretation results to a customer, like we see it in PFM solutions. I think those will be at the winning end of the game. And we take this game seriously, so we are investigating far more beyond of what regulatory requirements would impose on us. and I think you should watch closely what's up to come.
So some of the institutions are a little bit wary of PSD2 and open banking. What advice would you give them to really seize on this opportunity?
Well, I think it's actually positive because bringing transparency to your customers is very important because you can gain trust with them. And at the moment it's around, PSD2 is more around payment data and cash accounts and current accounts and maybe some mortgage accounts. But if you look at that payment data and what people have on their smartphones about their personal information, you connect the payment data with location data, for example, and you can do some analytics around that, you're actually giving value-add services back to your customers. So what you're actually doing is finding ways to give a better customer service back by leveraging PSD2 and other topics. And this is a challenge that the banks need to embrace. They need to understand which other data sets and APIs and third parties they need to work with that can leverage what's happening in PSD2. Because obviously everyone's assuming in the future there's going to be a new version of regulation which will open the data set in an additional direction. So now is the time to take advantage of the quiet period and make some assumptions as in what are the extra data sets that are coming, what are the assumptions you make and how do you connect these together?
What are some of the benefits for embracing the disruption that open banking has brought to the industry?
It's still early days, we have teething problems, and the customer awareness of open banking as a phenomena is non-existent. In fact, open banking is a term that's used in Fintech echo chambers. If you were to poll a resident in the UK what open banking means, and people have done that, it doesn't mean a lot to customers at this point in time. But what it does mean in a world not too distant future is the ability to see all your money in one place for an intuitive experience like Connected Money, which offers financial coaching around money management, because people have this tremendous fear of actually looking at their bank accounts and discovering something. That's a well-studied phenomena here in the UK. And I think that is the sort of gap that we want to fulfill. How do you create much more intuitive financial education and address issues such as the savings deficit in the UK or the investment deficit, where people have money sitting in cash where they could be better off spending somewhere else. It's that sort of opportunity that open banking presents, where either banks or other players working with banks or other players themselves can create that new sort of customer relationship.
So let's take a closer look at Avaloq software, specifically how their core digital solutions are keeping banks agile and compliant in the modern age. So how does moving to an Avaloq system help the institutions remain, say, agile?
So we have an extremely scalable agile platform. We have data at the center of our strategy and architecture for the platform. So there's very limited reconciliation points that need to happen when you work with an Avaloq solution. We have over 150 sets of feature points on our APIs, and we have a number of fintech and third-party partners that we can work with. So bringing all those topics together, you get more than what traditional vendors have. We are building an ecosystem, and we're responding to the challenges around PSD2 and what's happening in the disintermediation of those operating models, but also giving traditional financial institutions the ability to respond to these fintechs that are coming into their space as well.
How essential will partnering with the fintechs be in the future for the institutions, and how can Avaloq help the institutions do that?
So I think the very first thing, if you take a macro view on the topic, everyone has to play with everyone else, right? Avaloq, the banks, the fintechs, the third parties, the ecosystem providers. And you have to learn how to share revenue and play nicely together. If you can't do that, there's no point talking about anything else. So, we, for a number of years, have been pushing these relationships with our partners. And when we talk to fintechs and third parties, we bring them into the Avaloq family. We help them understand what banks need. We build that relationship with our account managers and help drive that through. So our view is that ecosystems, APIs are here to stay, and it's going to be a platform play for the banks. So they have to start thinking about how they're driving the operating model in a different direction over the next few years. And we're very well positioned to help them do that with this current strategy that we have.
Well, that's all for this week's edition of the Regtech Show. Tune in next time where we'll be taking a closer look at risk and cloud management.